Sometimes as a property investor, I feel like I'm actually bipolar. And Ali can 100% reaffirm this.
Yes, that's fair.
Because there are so many highs and lows involved in your journey as an investor, and sometimes you're up here in the stratosphere and you're on the moon, and the next day you're like right down in the dumps. And that has been both of our journeys. Ali's been at it for over 10 years now. I've been at it for 9 years. So we're going to talk about some of our highs and our lows today and really just get kind of real with it. You know, we're both super excited about this one actually, because we like sharing the good shit, but also the really bad stuff associated with property as well. Yeah,
everything that we've learned.
Yeah, and there's so many lessons as you go through this journey, you know, as a business and also as an individual. And yeah, I'm just super excited to get into it. So let's kick off with, I suppose, my first high personally, which is really about that moment when all of the information that you've taken in over time comes together and you actually get it right with a decision that you made.
Yes.
And the reason that feels good is because I've made some shocking decisions, you know what I mean? Like, I've cost myself a lot of money selling too early, buying too late, not timing the right market, buying the wrong type of product. But when the stars do align and all of the information that you take in finally connects the dots, and you're just like, fuck yeah, like I did this. You know what I mean? Like, I could see the writing in the wall, on the wall a couple of years ago in the Sydney markets and the Central Coast markets, and I strategically exited at that time out of that marketplace, and I'm strategically re-entering Brisbane at the moment for the same reason. Like, I finally understand the buy and the sell signals in marketplaces to take advantage of that, and that just feels awesome when you like obsess about it like we do for so long. I think nothing feels better than getting your strategy right, finding the right product at the right price at the right time, and just being like, there's nothing more I could have done. Like, I actually nailed what I just did, and that gives you confidence. You sleep better, you feel more comfortable about the debt. So that's one of my highs for sure. What about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, like I said, there's been a lot of learning along the way, and I think I will put my hand up. I went into investing thinking, yeah, it's going to be all great, everything's wonderful, and it certainly has had some great results, and I'm so proud of everything that I've achieved so far. But there are definitely some lows too, so it's really good to understand both of them and everything that we've learned. But definitely one of the biggest highs for me, I love negotiating. That is something that I get to do every single day here at Pumped On Property, and I love it. So even better than that is when you win negotiations. So yeah, I think constantly having that drive and securing the best property at the best price, there is just no better feeling for me. And I will again put my hand up, I'm the biggest property geek, but negotiating and then winning, particularly when it's been a bit competitive, and getting that great result at that key vital point when you're buying.
I think like negotiation's an art, but it's also a science, and I think at Pumped On Property, like Ali and I and the rest of the team have worked super hard in figuring out what works, what doesn't, from, you know, literally putting in thousands and thousands of offers over the years, or every year almost. Like, it just enables you to go, well, saying that didn't work, saying this did work, trying to come in here and ultimately finishing here and making sure everyone wins is just gold. And it's such a fun thing, but it's something as investors that most of us walk away from. We don't like it because we associate negotiation with conflict, but they are so separate if you do it right. And I agree, like, it's one of the funnest parts of what we get to do and what I do as an investor myself.
Definitely.
Another one for me was that moment in time when your property goes from costing you money each week to being cash flow positive. And it's kind of like, holy shit, I've bought a property for 400 grand. It rents for 500 or 600 bucks a week. You know, theoretical numbers, don't hold me accountable to those ones. Ali's like elbowing me. But you know what I mean? Like, when the property that you've held for a period of time not only goes up in value, but then stops being an expense in your life. And for some properties, you know, like a house and a granny flat, that can happen straight away. But for lots of other properties that you buy, particularly in the capital cities, it does take a little bit of time to get to cash flow neutral. And then when you go over positive and you're like, I have control of a $500,000, $1 million asset that is rising by 4 or 5% per year for the rest of my life, and I don't have to pay for it, like, you know, that is a wicked feeling, whether it's pre-tax or post-tax. It's just a great position to be in as an investor, where what you hold doesn't cost you anything, or actually better than that, starts producing you with a passive income, so that you become less reliant on work and the fear associated with losing an income.
Exactly, yep. Good one. One of mine, just to bring it back to me.
Smoothest transition we've ever done in a video, guys. My turn.
Well, it's hard. This is a topic that I think Ben and I are so excited about. Just everything that we've learned in the last 10 years. So, and being able to share that advice with people who actually get it is the best thing. So, yeah, look, not hearing from my property manager. As an investor, I think so many people go into it, and I speak to investors every week that sometimes freak out, and I haven't heard from them. Not hearing from them is a good thing. If your property manager calls you, it's usually because your tenant's leaving and you've got to find a new one, which will cost you a bit of money and a bit of vacancy maybe, or you've got to spend money on fixing something. So I love having a great property manager look after my property and then not speak to them. Know that they're great people, but not have to talk to them. So yeah, I love it, and I think that comes back to having actually secured the right property and also maintained your property well, so that it is looking after you. So that's a big high for me, is just having it sit there and not have to worry about it.
So many people that we talk to and work with, especially when they're getting started, feel like the way to overcome their fear and the challenges we face as investors is to just control everything. And I personally fully put my hand up, and like, Ali knows when I'm flipping out because I'm trying to squeeze everyone in the office environment, and I do. We usually
tell them to take a holiday at that point.
Yeah, go for a holiday, or like Joe books me one. But like, and that's probably like once a week. It should be. Fridays, like, get out of here. But I've done the same thing to like my advisors in the past, solicitors in the past, property managers in the past, where I like squeeze them so hard to just micromanage them, because I feel like it's giving me some form of artificial control, when these days I let the people that are better at doing stuff just do their shit, and I hope they don't call me, because I know it's money when they do, you know what I mean? So I think that's so important. And like, coming on from that, the biggest high for me personally recently, and I'm talking last couple of years, is I finally feel like I get property. Like, that's so weird to say that, you know what I mean?
It is, yeah.
Like, I finally feel like, you know, there's so much to learn, and every single day we're constantly growing, reading books, watching vids, listening to podcasts like you guys, like growing and wanting to learn more and more. But I get what I personally want. I get the strategy that I need to apply over time to achieve that. I get when to buy and when to sell. I get that houses, Adsy, I get that houses, something's going on in the background here. What is it? What is it?
Did you ruin your podcast?
What is it?
A massive ray just did 3 big jumps out of the water.
Oh,
apparently
extra content,
a massive stingray just jumped out of the water. We're not going to edit that, guys. I missed it. Our team's sitting up there and watching it.
Maybe on your tape.
Get out of here, Mum. My mum runs my property management business with me. Where was I going with that? Oh, finally getting it. So, you know, I now understand that houses very close to the beach outperform units. I get that the land is the major component that's important. I get that the closer I buy to the city in Sydney, Melbourne or Brisbane, the better I'm going to be long-term financially. I get that I'm prepared to now trade a short bit of long-term capital growth potential for a property that makes me be able to sleep at night, which is one that gives me passive income as well. So, you know, that's taken me so long. Like, we've probably bought as a business 250, maybe 300 million bucks worth of property in Sydney and Brisbane. With Ali and I personally, between us, have bought more properties than 99% of people would ever consider buying in a lifetime. Like, I fucking didn't get it for so long, and I thought I did. Like, I really thought I did, and 5 years from now I'll be looking back going, man, like, that strategy was so basic. But, you know, that feels good. Like, it feels like some of the different moving pieces that we have, the information overload that we all feel as investors, have just connected the dots. And
I really love that, Ben. I think one of the most important things that you just brought up then was I guess just getting it now. And when I started in investing 10 years ago, and you were about the same situation, same time, I went in with quite a lot of knowledge, because I'd had the benefit of growing up in an environment that encouraged that. But it's really different knowing and then experiencing it. And I think
100%.
being at the end of this 10-year period, looking back on my last 10 years of investing, and I know that you're the same, we've talked about this before, but looking at it and going, okay, I knew that it was good because history told me that, you know, capital growth was good in these different areas and things like that, but then actually having invested your dollar into it, experienced it, seen the growth, or on the flip side, investing your money into a different situation that might not have been as great, and then having learnt from that. So you can know a lot by the data and the history and the paper, but actually physically experiencing it and watching your money do this and that is the most rewarding and where you learn your most lessons and probably get your most value from.
Look, what I love is, like, off camera yesterday, Ali and I were just talking about your experience in the Sydney market, and I think it's 2007 you were buying down there,
yeah.
And you thought that it looked like a good opportunity because the 9 years before 2007 it had basically been flat. Like, Brisbane has been flat for 10 years now, which is why we think it looks interesting for investors today. And you were like, okay, it's the right time, and this is a time during a GFC when not many other people are buying, and that's why
I was 19 as well, so
19 years of age, you know what I mean? Like, scary stuff regardless of, like, a family that, you know, likes to invest or doesn't. Like, it's just a huge move for a 19-year-old to do on their own, and I just think you rode that cycle all the way through and then strategically exited out of, what, 2017, 18?
Yeah.
Like, at the pretty much very top of that
last
product
year.
For that market, and it's, yeah, that was last year. That feels like ages ago,
It
but
does.
also like yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and just going full cycle in a marketplace and having the confidence to know when to buy and when to sell, and it takes guts to do that. Like, it takes guts to hold on that little bit longer. It takes guts to, you know, not cash in on your money like a lot of people do too early. I've done that myself in Sydney. It takes guts to buy when the sentiment is horrible, but if you understand what you're doing, I think it can really change the game for yourself. And I think buying when no one else wants to buy is one of the key lessons I've learned, which is why, you know, I'm so excited about the next couple of years, because I think a lot of people sit on the sidelines, and
Yeah.
that is cool. Like, let them sit on the sidelines and strategically buy the right types of properties. You'd be stupid as hell to go buy Sydney or Melbourne now unless you were going to live there for 30 years.
Yep.
But Brisbane looks so interesting right now if you look at the fundamentals, and we've done other videos on that. 7 years from today we'll be watching this back, or you'll be listening to it and just going, holy shit, like, stuff kind of worked out that way. Because if you know your history and you're confident that the average punter in the bakery doesn't know a thing about investing in property, so why would you listen to them? Then you can really make really interesting gains, I reckon, and set yourself up well.
And that, I couldn't agree more. That honestly comes back to my biggest high of investing, is when you actually do make that gain and you see the highs. You know, I started investing in Sydney 10 years ago strategically, and then I strategically exited 12 months ago, mid to late 2017, and the benefit and that I've received and the quality of life that I have as a result of going through those fears is that was my goal when I set out, and to have achieved that goal, and like you said, not sat on the sidelines, you know, actually put my hand up and put myself forward, and not been afraid to have held back like a lot of people do and have not missed out. And yeah, it's been a really fun journey. There's been highs and lows as we're talking about today, but the biggest high for me is definitely having come full 10-year cycle to the end of Sydney and just stepped back and gone,
I nailed it.
Yeah, that's what I came here to do, and that's what I did.
Awesome. Jay-Z right here. Came, she saw, she can't kid. Like, I freaking love that, and I love rap as well, by the way. But I think, you know, the other thing that Ali and I have learnt since we've gone through this, just, you know, thinking about what you just said, is you haven't just rushed back into the market. Like, I've made some gains as well recently. I decided for the first time to, like, improve the quality of my life through the home that I'm living in, so I exited out of a couple of properties like you did.
Yeah, we both have. Yeah.
You know, bought the place that we want to spend the next, or I want to spend the next 20 to 30 years. Like, I don't know about you guys.
Love my house. It is the #1 best thing I've got from investing.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's not just about this constant growth like a lot of people believe. It's about taking a breather, finding what it is that's meaningful for you. Like, neither of us want to go on to build full-blown empires. What we want is just an amazing quality of life with choices in it, and passive income at some point within the next 15 years that covers ours, our family's lives, without ever having to think about cash again. And I think, you know, there's this misconception that property is all about just making money, which is why we invest, but it is also about creating choices in your life at an age where you're young enough to enjoy them, so that you can be the real you and more of you, and less of the showy bullshit, you know, thing that goes around a lot associated with property and people inside the industry.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's like the high.
But there are some lows too.
I don't have any low range in my voice, so I sound like a little girl. I can't like go low, but we're going low now.
Get ready, hold on.
So what are we at? What's your first low?
My first low, a little bit boring actually. I'm gonna take it and go the exact opposite of one of my highs, and hearing from my property manager. So I have had to, in fact, I was speaking to someone recently and we were discussing insurance, and I realized that on almost every single property I've owned, I've had to make a flood claim. I don't know if I told you that. Yeah, crazy. So,
really?
Yeah,
that's gnarly.
So one was a dishwasher, one was a pipe in the bathroom, and then my hot water service leaked as well. Like, any flooding except for an actual full you know, natural flood I think I've experienced. But so all, you know, outside of our control, outside of my control as an investor, outside of my tenants' control and my property managers, but still an experience that I was faced with and had to deal with. The benefit of insurance, literally, you know, made my claim, walked away, closed my eyes, and it was dealt with. But it's still something that I had to deal with, you know, whilst going about my day-to-day life. So hearing from your property manager, generally if you're hearing from them, you've got to fix something, you've got to spend some money on something, your tenant might be leaving, and these are all things that happen in investing, and you've got to be willing to take on those situations to get the gain. You know, you can't just get everything for nothing.
Yeah.
There are highs and lows to investing, and the highs are worth the lows in my opinion, but you've got to be ready to face those sort of management and maintenance situations. And I think also one of the best things that you can do is maintain your property to the best standard that you can, so that, you know, you're not always sticking your hand in your pocket, and purchasing quality properties. So.
I fully agree with you, and like, this is off topic in terms of what I wanted to say, but I think in terms of the lows as an investor, so much of the battles as an investor is like literally between here and here and here. Like, so many of the challenges that we all face, like, I feel physically ill every single time I buy. Like, I just hate getting into debt. Like, I cannot stand debt, because that's what I was brought on. I've bought enough properties to overcome that. I still don't. I still second guess every choice that I make with properties, because I'm looking for like the ideal property. I wouldn't say perfect, because there's always a better way to do it, but I'm looking for the right strategy. Like, I hear information and I can't help it, that information reflects on me. I'm constantly learning about this stuff and tweaking my strategy. Like, you know, it's freaking uncomfortable investing in property. Like, it is really uncomfortable, because I've got 3 kids, some businesses, properties, job. Like, this is a job that I spend 30 to 40 hours a week doing, like most weeks, some weeks 50, 60 hours a week. Ali's the same. Like, we're both married, like, we've got stuff going on, we love doing stuff, we love seeing friends, we both like doing yoga and training and stuff. It's like, property's another hat to wear, and I don't want anyone to believe that like you just get somewhere without doing something. It is full on hard work. Sometimes it makes you sick. Like, once I lost like 6 kilos, like, I was that stressed out from buying something that I bought that was the wrong decision. Like, I've lost massive money. Once I lost 35 grand on a property when I just had my first baby, about to have my second one. Like, I was earning not the money that I'm earning, you know. Like, I wasn't prepared to lose like 6 months of my wage at that time in my life. Like, I had someone walk in and burn down my granny flat on one property and almost burnt down the house. And then when they all moved out, like, the people apparently were drug dealers, and then they decided that it'd be fun to drive like some cars through the property and break into the property, like, and trash the property and plug a power point from the neighbour's electrical box into theirs, because I cut their power off to get them out of the house. And when it was raining, and it was, my property manager rang me saying the fucking lead's sparking and they're going to burn down my house as well. Like, but I say this with a smile on my face, because I got paid out from insurance because I had the right insurance in place. Yes, it was a slap in the face to have vacancy for 5 months while I fixed the property, but it all worked out. And if you've got that mindset where you can overcome challenges, where you're prepared to be disciplined and diligent and learn things, not just be the same person for the rest of your life, man, this stuff can be good. Like that, the positives far outweigh any negative for me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, having a flood damage on almost every property, I'd forgotten. You know, I didn't even think about it until it was, I was sort of faced with it, and I was discussing it with someone. But again, the highs, you know, that is a low, and you've got to take that low. But you know, no pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. What's another one here? We've written a few different things down. Another low for me is probably the paperwork. Again, people coming to investing and they're like, yeah, great, we just give someone money and then we just get more money. Awesome. But unfortunately, you know, one of my favorite parts was negotiating and getting the deal, and that's so exciting. And then I come right back down when my solicitor's like, here's 80 pages worth of documents for you to read through, and I'm like, oh,
by the
really?
way, we can't give you advice on them. You read them and make your own decision.
Yeah, enjoy, happy reading. But yeah, solicitors, you get a lot of documents from them, and you know, it's tedious stuff, but you know, again, one night I sort of would sit there, just go through the paperwork, give myself one night, and then I don't have to do it again, and I don't have to think about it. Same with applying for the loan and going for, you know, when my mortgage broker's calling me, Ali, I need this document. Oh, really? I'm busy, I've got other stuff going on. I don't want to deal with your paperwork, but I'm not very big on paperwork.
Paperwork, no fun when there's no gain for it.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's one of those things that when you get hit with that paperwork, you just think, yeah, again, gonna set aside my night, and then in a few years' time, once I've had the capital growth, or I'm cash flow positive, or whatever your goal was, and you've achieved that, then you don't even think twice about it. But
see, like we were both actually at a conference recently with Jack DeLosa from the Entourage. Young dude, absolutely kicking ass, epic videos on YouTube around business stuff if you're that way inclined. And you know, he talks about like buying behavior of any product, and this was fascinating to me. Like I think in terms of this journey, we're completely overwhelmed and scared as investors. We get really excited when we choose to buy. We lose all motivation because of investor fatigue as we go through the process of finding the right suburb, the right strategy, the right property. We buy it, get very excited for a moment, and then the paperwork comes and it's just like, oh my god, this is drowning in paperwork and advisors. And then you've bought it, fear, and then when it starts working out for you medium term, you're like, I nailed it. That was all me.
Now it's good. Now it's good.
Now it's good. Like, so
yeah. Just
remember that we all roller coaster through that, no matter if it's your first or your 50th, it's the same thing. And it's always going to be a bit uncomfortable, but what's the reverse option? Like not investing and ending up on the pension and not having any choices in a stage of life when you really need them. So
it's not me.
Yeah, it's not me, man. I don't want to do that. I don't know, I think we've sort of wrapped up some of the others. I think
I've got one more.
What's yours?
It's a fear. It's a fear and it's a low, but getting into debt. Like, I remember really young, I was really young when my mum taught me the difference between good debt and bad debt, and at first I was very confused, but debt
Explain that for a sec, because I don't think everyone is just naturally going to get that. They didn't grow up on the dinner table like you from 5 years of age talking about property.
Fair enough, fair enough. So good debt and bad debt. So I guess a bad debt is effectively debt you have in an asset that is depreciating, and then you can have good debt in an asset that's appreciating. So you can have debt that's making you money, or you can have debt that's losing you money. So bit of an example, I guess any car loan that you have. Cars, I mean, look, I'm not a car head. I'm sure there are probably some unique, special, what do they call, classic cars or something. But generally speaking, my little Golf that's in the driveway is going down. It's not making me any money. So if I was to have debt on that car, it would be costing me, it's debt that's only costing me money. Whereas the money that I invested in property in Sydney in the last 10 years was all invested into appreciating assets. So whilst I had hundreds and hundreds of thousands worth of very, very, very scary debt, it was effectively making me money as the cycle did its thing and rose. And so yeah, that's the difference, I guess, between good debt and bad debt.
Yep. So like linking that back to this feeling that you have, or this fear.
Yeah. So getting into debt, it really doesn't matter. It's scary. You know, I was 19 when I signed my first mortgage documents and my first loan, and I was terrified. But you know, I had good old mum holding my hand along the way. But yeah, I was terrified. It's a lot of debt for someone who is working casually part-time as a waitress. So that was pretty scary, and I think it doesn't really matter. That I don't necessarily think it matters what your financial position is. It is still scary going into debt, and again that moment where you do sort of freak out and go, am I doing the right thing? What have I done? But you know, at the end of the day, it's all worth it to me, and you know, I sort of, when I have that fear, I come back and I go, okay, Ali, good debt, bad debt, you know this, you know, you look at what's happened, look at the history, and then you bring it back to all the logical reasons as to why you're making that decision. So,
and that's such a good point, like focusing on knowing your market, knowing your strategy, knowing your suburb like the back of your hand, knowing what type of property you will and won't buy, and having rules for that enables you to at least take away a lot of the major issues with property that people buy, you know, that get sold into absolute rubbish all over the place, because it's always going to go up in value. Like having this concept that, you know, there isn't a cycle in property is very dangerous. You know, having a mindset that you could just go buy anything, and you know, just because you made money in Sydney in the last 10 years from buying, you can remake it and expect the same thing again. Like expectation bias, according to Tony Robbins, is probably the worst case scenario for most investors. And the second biggest issue, I think, bias wise, is recency bias, which is basically expectation bias is going, that property in Australia has gone up in Sydney dramatically in the last 10 years, therefore I've bought in Brisbane, I expect Brisbane to do the same. You know, second thing is recency bias. Like property prices in Sydney kicked ass for 10 years. Therefore property prices in Sydney must always continue to go up in value in the same way that they have been recently. And these are dangerous traps for like early stage investors that we are all operating through, and you've just got to be aware of that stuff too. So, you know, just if you've got logic to support it, you've got timing to support it, you're in a good financial position where you're not going to bring the whole house of cards down. Investing in property has been amazing for both of us, but for some people it's just not the right thing or the right time for them, and sometimes sitting on the side is cool. You know, for other people it's probably the worst thing they can do with their money, having cash in the bank right now. So you know, there's some of the highs and lows for us. Obviously we've had heaps of different experiences, but you know, all of us are identical. We all go through highs, we all go through lows. Sometimes it's really fun and easy and you're doing it all like the rock's rolling down the hill. Sometimes you've got that rock on your back as well as everyone around you, and you're carrying it up, and it can be really tough. But if you've got a longer term outlook and you know why you're doing these things because it's attached to your why in your life, this stuff can be a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, key message that I can sort of share with anyone is just don't sweat the small stuff. Make sure you're focusing on what is important, and try not to get those little nitty-gritty things just get in the way too much of progressing you forward.
For sure. So for those of you who are thinking about buying an investment property, love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. Please jump over to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click free strategy session. Either myself or my brother Simon will catch up with you and look at where you are right now, where you'd like to be in 12 months and longer term, what's holding you back, and being real about some of these challenges or lows that we all face as investors, whether it's just getting started or very sophisticated. And then we can talk a bit more about where the market's at the moment, what options you have available, and that's complimentary. You know, we only select 8 of the people that we talk to each month, and we talk to quite a lot to work with us. So if that's for you, no obligations, we'd love to continue the conversation. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, where we'll share as many of these sorts of insider perspectives as we possibly can, so that you can go and invest with confidence on your own or with the help of someone else. But thanks for your time and attention, and have a great day.
See you guys.